Hi, I'm Bills defensive end Greg Rousseau, and you're listening to Nate and the Fellas on Circling the Wagons podcast. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Go Bills!
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo! Hey, hey, let's go Buffalo!
The Bills make me wanna shout!
Welcome to the Circling the Wagons podcast, a podcast discussing the Bills all year round with interviews, news, recaps, and insightful fan discussion. Most times. Here's your host and lifelong Bills fan, Nate.
Bills Mafia, what's up? The Buffalo Bills, your Buffalo Bills, barely squeaked by the New York Giants in Orchard Park tonight, 14-9 to go 4-2 in the season, and give us all a collective heart attack. So that was nice. This was an interesting game. We're going to recap this game from the beginning. We're going to go over this Bills victory, give our thoughts on the game, some stats of the game, our sweet sassy molassy plays of the game, and who or what we're going to put on our wall of fame and wall of shame. And we have two giveaways to give away for our podcast listeners. But first, I'm joined by my co-hosts John and Mike on this episode of Circling the Wagons, which is brought to you by the Twin Spire Sportsbook at Del Lago, at the Del Lago Resort and Casino in Waterloo, New York. So, guys, this was a crazy game. The Bills were 15.5-point favorites going into this one, and they couldn't look less like favorites in this one. The New York Giants just... For the second straight week, the Bills couldn't get anything going on offense, at least with the Jaguars defense and, the Jets defense, those two games that they lost. You're like, well, those are pretty good defenses. I can understand. The Giants aren't a great defense. They're not. They're like bottom 10 in almost every category. So the Bills struggled mightily the entire game. The defense missing, three starters on defense. The defense kept the Bills in this game, only allowing 9 points and making the game-saving play at the end of the game. I got to say, as a Bills fan, I'm happy it's over. I'm happy we got out with the win. Kind of nervous for how the season's going to go for the Bills the rest of the way. I don't have a ton of confidence in this team going into it, but we're just a few weeks removed from like a couple of trouncings against, the Dolphins and the Raiders and the Commanders and all that stuff. So I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. I'm excited, but obviously a little hesitance there. It's just like, John, I'll start with you first. Thoughts on the game and how are you holding up?
I'm holding on by a thread, Nate. I wasn't, as you know, I wasn't super confident coming into this game. And you look at the Jaguars game on offense in the first couple quarters on offense in this game, it was more the same. And then you had it was even before the game even started, like the announcers I was already had issues with, and then like the red jerseys, which you guys know I'm not a fan of. And then you had the Damian Harris on the field, and one thing after another. So I mean, glad they got the win. I'm not sure what the future looks like, but you got I think at this point to. Not to go coach speak on it, but you really, at this point, we just got to take it week to week. We can't have these grandeur plans at this point and thinking about like what might be at the end of the year. I think we just got to look at the next game and be like, all right, can we win this next game? What do we got to do and go from there?
Yeah, I put a lot of stock into the fact that this was a different game than normal. And I kind of talked about it. I did a quick, preview podcast on Thursday night with Kyle from Banged Up Bills. And just, we were talking about injuries and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't like that Daniel Jones is out. I think Tyrod Taylor is the better quarterback to just keep them in games. And everything that kind of could go wrong, went wrong. Just like when the Bills lose, they usually end up beating themselves completely, usually, so the Bills turned the ball over in the first half twice, like great. Gabriel Davis fumbled that one, and Josh Allen, right after the Damian Harris injury you just mentioned, John, right after that, he had a huge play to Stephon Diggs, and then the next play right after that, The ball was tipped in the air and intercepted. So just the Bills giving up the ball, them getting penalties on defense and on offense. Those two plays where the wide receivers were open and they got tripped by Giants DBs. Like everything just seemed to go. I'm like, this isn't going to go well for the Buffalo Bills. And then that Knox play at the end of the game where Allen threw it to Knox wide open to end the game, and Knox had it in his hands and he dropped it. Just one thing after another. I didn't think they were going to win this game, to be honest. The way that it was ending with it going to the last play of the game, and then there was a pass interference on the Buffalo Bills that led it to, first and goal at the 1 yard line. I'm like, the Bills aren't going to win this game. This is not the game that they normally win, but they somehow pulled it off. So I'm ecstatic about that, but I'm kind of upset that it took to that. Like this Bills team is much better than this Giants team, or at least I think so, or I thought so. Mike, your thoughts on the Bills win in this one?
I loved it. I love watching the Bills in prime time. I love when it comes down to the wire and when we win. And I love how we squashed the emotional homecomings of Brian Daboll and Tyrod Taylor. They seem like great people, but huge win for the Bills. And I think we're overplaying like the importance of destroying a team, right? The Eagles lost today to the Jets led by Zach Wilson. The 49ers lost today to the lowly Browns and PJ Walker. Like, come on. Like, I love that we won a close game. You and I, we've watched 20 years of the Bills getting just like, so many leap to mind. The one I remember the most is when they lost to the Jaguars.
You mean
in the last play of the game? Remember that?
You mean last week?
No.
Oh,
20 years ago.
I don't remember that one. You mean the Titans?
No.
Oh, the Jaguars, they won the last game. That's it. Let's play the game.
And the Bills player
yes.
Them out the back
Yes. Yeah, okay, gotcha. Yeah. And there was like pass interference or something.
Yeah. Pushed him out the back. And then it was like the rule was you had to let the player, if you pushed him out and he could have come down in, he was in. Remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good memory, man. Jeez. So
it was exciting all the way through. Yeah. Great.
A little too exciting. I was kind of hoping for some non-excitement tonight. Like I was watching the game, I'm like, I don't really need to be this stressed. I was like, I like the games where we're like up by like 3 scores by the third quarter, and then you can just kind of relax, because that's how you beat Tyrod Taylor is you make him have to pass the ball. If he doesn't have to pass the ball, I mean, we know Tyrod better than anyone, better than any other team in the NFL. That's how you beat Tyrod Taylor. You keep him out of the game. If he manages to stay in the game, then he can run the ball. He can check down. Some of those checkdowns at the end, he's like passing behind the line of scrimmage and they're like -1 yard games. I'm like, that's the Tyrod I remember. Just stay there. Just don't. And then at the end of the game, he throws the ball up and luckily they got that DPI. But yeah, very exciting. Very exciting. Didn't think they'd pull that off, but feels good. Feels good. I'm just worried, Mike, that this doesn't translate to the future. But really, you're kind of saying that it isn't a box. Like the Eagles won't lose to the Jets every week, sort of thing. It's just we'll have to see. Well, I mean, it just stinks that this is 2 weeks in a row that we've seen the offense struggle. But in a long season where they're like, I think they're second or third in points per game, they're just going to struggle in some games, right?
They made adjustments at halftime. The Bills only had 3 drives in the second half, and those first 2 drives were amazing. And the third drive was just them trying to let the Giants use timeouts, which is debatable on those play calls, but that might have been partly McDermott too. But I think Dorsey made great second half adjustments.
Yeah, they started scoring in the second half, so absolutely. That rollout play that they were going to end the game on, that was genius play calling. Like that would have worked if Dawson Knox, their $14 million tight end, comes down with the ball. That game's over by then. They don't even have to wait for Tyrod to drive down the field and get a defensive pass interference and be first and goal at the 1 yard line. And Taron Johnson somehow stops Darren Waller from scoring, but also looks like pass interference at the same time. I think they got away with one on that one. But
what do you mean somehow stops him? He was grabbing his jersey with one hand and pulling his arm down with his other hand.
He was. I'd be super pissed if I was a Giants fan. That's like, let's go into stats of the game. Stats of the game brought to you by the Twin Spires Sportsbook at Delago. Josh Allen, 19 for 30, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not a tremendous game by Josh Allen by any stretch. Struggled a lot. Got a lot of pressure, more pressure than I was thinking he would get. This was a scrappy game, by the way, guys. I did not expect there to be this had a feeling of like a divisional rivalry game, like the Jets or the Dolphins. I was not expecting that from an NFC team.
I think it's the Daboll factor, really. And it was probably amplified a little bit more with Tyrod Taylor, but I don't think because of him, I think it was just Daboll, pumping up his guys to, in that regard.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're right. James Cook, Captain Cook, 14 carries for 71 yards. He had a good game today. Latavius Murray had 12 carries for 45 yards. Josh Allen only 2 carries for 11 yards today. Not a whole lot of rushing yards for Josh Allen on the season. Even, we've noticed that. I think he had an average of 47 yards per game last season. I think he might have only hit that once so far in the first 6 games. Stephon Diggs, the leading receiver for the Buffalo Bills, 10 receptions on 16 targets. Stephon Diggs had over half the targets of Josh Allen today. 100 yards, 0 touchdowns. Gabe Davis had 3 receptions on 4 targets for 21 yards and a touchdown. No touchdowns by Gabe Davis. Dawson Knox, 3 receptions on 6 targets for 17 yards. And then the only other one that really truly matters is Quentin Morris, 1 reception, 1 target for 15 yards and 1 touchdown. So Tyrod Taylor with a very Tyrod Taylor-esque day, 24 completions on 36 attempts, 200 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. It's a very Tyrod Taylor-esque game. 5 carries for 24 yards for Tyrod Taylor. Saquon Barkley had 24 rushes on 93 yards. Couldn't get anything going throughout the first half. They showed that stat on the broadcast where it was like 19 carries for 32 yards. And then in the next 5 carries, he had like 60 yards, right? Like he was just crushing the Bills. And of course, the Bills defense was a little gassed because they had been holding up the Bills offense the entire game. So the Bills offense comes alive and then the Bills defense is just like, we can't keep doing this, guys.
Although, to be fair, when the Bills offense came alive, they had like a 10-minute drive, and like 4 minutes before that, it was halftime. So it's not like...
Yeah, right. Yeah, they had some time off, right? So Darius Slayton was the leading receiver for the Giants, 4 receptions on 6 targets for 69 yards. Robinson, 8 receptions on 8 targets for 62 yards. And then Darren Waller, 5 receptions on 7 targets for 43 yards. A few other stats from tonight's win. Only one that was it was funny. I was looking at this Bills PR. It was like the Bills drives that ended up with a touchdown. It was almost 10 minutes of game clock, which was the team's longest touchdown drive since 2016. And I was kind of like, that was with Deontay Hardy's first touchdown. So that was another great play by Deontay Hardy. It was a good play dialed up by Dorsey in general on that touchdown. But at the time I'm thinking that's not great. It took 10 minutes. You guys are behind. You need to be scoring faster and then scoring again after that. I don't think that was like a feather in your cap sort of stat. But
I thought it was good.
That they could actually sustain a drive, you mean?
They took the lead, and it took 10. They had a 17-play drive, 10 minutes. That's awesome. Their first offensive possession of the second half. That's awesome.
Yeah, I guess it's better than a punt or something. I just wanted them to score. I just wanted the thing about today is it just felt like everything was difficult.
Well, it's not like they were down by 21 to start the second half. They're down by 6. So touchdown puts them in the lead, right?
Yeah, a touchdown puts them in the lead, but when they couldn't score on their first 5 or 6 drives, and they got helped out tremendously before the end of the half by Tyrod audibling out of a passing play to a running play, and then they ended up getting 0 points instead of 3 points or 7 points right before the end of the half. I mean,
that was good. That was the moment where, because a few minutes before that, I was thinking, oh, the Bills are the worst team in the league, and then that happened. I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
That's funny. I was like, yes, Tyrod, yes, come back to the dark side. Yeah, that was funny. It was a good reminder. That moment was definitely a good reminder, John. All right, let's go into our Sweet Sassy Molassy plays of the game. Sweet Sassy Molassy plays of the game brought to you by the Twin Spires Sportsbook at Del Lago. John, I'll start with you first. What was your sweet sassy Molassy play of the game?
There are definitely a few plays that stick out, but I think that the Quentin Morris touchdown was pretty amazing. Allen under pressure, somehow throwing it to a spot that not sure he knew where he was throwing it, but he got it to the exact spot where it needed to be, and Quentin Morris didn't drop it like a lot of other receivers might have. And
other tight ends that we know.
Because it was a defensive player right there, another one coming across the field at the same time. Like it was all like bang, bang, and it just worked out perfectly. So super happy for Morris, and that'd probably be my play of the game.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's my play of the game. If I'm not giving it to Taron Johnson for holding on to Darren Waller's arm.
It was a good play, but it can't possibly be the play of the game. It has to come down to the final one where the entire game hinges.
Well, it could possibly be, but yours is valid too.
Clock is out the window. Needing a stop. Bills need a stop. One play. That's the play of the game.
Play of the game. The last play.
That's it's like Dumb and Dumber. What's the soup of the day? Or what's the soup du jour? It's the soup of the day.
We should call this the play du jour. The play du jour. What's the play du jour? It's the play of the day, Nate. Oh, thanks. Good call, Mike.
It has to be the final one.
The one that put the nail in the coffin. That's got to be it. I like how he changed my mind from John's to Mike. Is like definitely John's. No,
is it the nail in the coffin? If it was like, it's not like they like put the game away. I mean, well, they did, but like it's like I think it means something different. There was no time left, so it's not really the nail in the. I guess it is.
That's like the coffin. That's like the last bit of dirt being thrown on the coffin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wait, what? I thought the nail in the coffin just means the coffin's shut, right?
But there's still more that's happening, but it's over for all intents.
He could ring the bell. He could still ring the bell if he woke up.
That's right. They used to do that, right?
Yeah.
Victorians, man.
That sounds like a very important job. It should have been like the most important job, but they half-assed it every single time. It's like, hey, Jethro, did you get that bell over there on plot 48? Yeah, totally, boss.
String's totally not connected.
It doesn't have like one of those things on the inside of the bell that dings against it. It's missing. Yeah, you'd hear it. It's like feverishly being pulled and yanked. String breaks. It's like it's not even string. It's like horsehair. Yeah. I think I'm gonna go any or you could go with a very non-important play, but a play that I enjoyed, which was the skirmish in the third quarter on the goal line for the Buffalo Bills before they scored that touchdown to Deontay Hardy, where Josh Allen got into it when his offensive linemen were being shoved around, right? Like he came in off the side and just like gave a big shoulder shrug to that or shoulder into the linebacker on the Giants. I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's good and bad.
Yeah,
good
and bad.
I love it that he didn't get injured back because he could have gotten like tossed to the ground, right?
Right. But on the other hand, it rallies the teammates, right? Like, our quarterbacks get into it. We got to get into it too. But speaking of which, you mentioned Hardy for that touchdown. That was an excellent play call. That was a really good play too.
This should just be a different segment then, like stuff you liked, because it's not the play du jour.
Well, I know we're talking about honorable mentions.
It leads into it's honorable mentions. It's leading into other discussions. So yeah. That was a really good play call.
It's Quentin Morris, then the last play of the game, and then honorable mentions.
So you're just listing the touchdown plays.
I'm just going to go through the
entire... there's only two for both teams combined.
I'm going to ESPN right now, and I'm just going to read through all the plays of the entire game. Josh Allen, handoff at a shotgun to James Cook for 1 yard. Josh Allen, okay, so what I didn't like, tell me, can somebody explain to me how if there's 3 personal fouls against one team and then 1 personal foul against the other team, like how that's even? Like how that even, there's no ejections or anything, but like it's so, like what's the point? Like if you know that there's a personal foul, just take liberties. Like why didn't that linebacker just like I don't know, start giving Josh Allen an uppercuts? Like what's the point? Why not? It's offsetting penalties. There's a difference.
Well, uppercut would probably be an ejection, but I
Fair.
the one few things I agreed with the announcers with is like, yeah, if it's going to be offsetting, just who cares? Just keep the game moving,
Well, don't you want to track it in case somebody does something again? Because then it's like, oh, that's your second one. And also, when you say, Nate, taking liberties, I feel like that means something. Doesn't that mean when somebody's grabbing your genitalia under the pile?
that happened.
Those are some liberties that could be taken. It's not what I was thinking of, but
I feel like that's a euphemism for that.
Euphemism. I had never really thought about taking liberties. I thought that it could be with anything, like anything in life. Like, man, Jeff's really taking liberties in his lunch break over there. Coming back an extra 15 minutes late. It's not like he's really grabbing some genitalia at lunch at the local pub. Jeff's not allowed at the local pub anymore. At the Chili's across the street.
So what were we talking about?
What were we talking about? What's the point? If you know that but then again, also true, if you're at the 1 yard line too, I mean, even if it wasn't offsetting penalties, what do you get? First and goal at the 1? You're already at the 1 yard line. It
would have been so much worse for the Bills if the Giants didn't have like any penalty. If it was just a Bills player.
If it was just a Bills player, yeah.
Because then you're back on the 16 again, right?
Yeah. You're doing like second or third and goal from 16 yards.
Yeah, I was rooting for offsetting at that point, just to keep it at the 2 and not move anywhere.
Yeah, I was thinking like when the guy came over and just shoved Spencer Brown out of nowhere, I was like, they can't eject for that. I guess what would an ejection take for that? Like out of nowhere. I'm just wondering what it would take. Like literally uppercuts, right? Like I mean, you can punch each other. I mean, there's punching. There's kicking. I mean, Kevin Thibodeau was just kicking Deion Dawkins from the ground, so that's cool. Like, you can do that.
Yeah, and Brown did the same thing. He had his feet up in there. That's probably how he hurt his knee.
Oh, yeah, he hurt his knee. That's right. He left the game with it. He came back, though, I believe.
Yeah.
I believe he came back, but yeah.
Yeah, I think if you're, like, taking actual swings or pulling helmets off and those types of things, then I think shoving is not necessarily an ejection.
Yeah, knock someone down. What if he got a concussion from some guy just coming out of nowhere and knocking him down and he landed on his head? Like that's supposed.
It's unfortunate.
Well, that's what they do in hockey, right? They give you a major penalty depending on like the injury. If there's injury or there's blood or something, right? Like it goes from a minor to a major, right? Like they should do that for football. So
they should have let him fight, just like in hockey.
Yes, they should have. I don't know if I take Spencer Brown in that one, but he is a big man, so maybe I do.
But it have to be one-on-one. They couldn't allow because I think a couple people were in on. Obviously, a lot of people were in on it, right? 4 personal fouls in one play, right?
Yeah. Yeah, chippy game by the Giants. Okay, so we did Sweet Sassy Molassie plays.
The guy that they brought in to explain all that, didn't he look like Christopher Reeve?
Let's go into our wall.
But that dude is better than Gene Steratore.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Gene Steratore looks like he's getting some money during the game, even though he's not even doing anything anymore.
Terrible.
Just yeah. Well, actually, what the call should be, never that call. Never is that call.
Never. It's too bad you can't bet in real time.
On what Gene Steratore is going to say.
Yeah.
Is Gene Steratore going to be right after this challenge? No. No is minus 1,100. Yes is plus 2,500. You guys, that's going to be part of the betting the Bills segment. If Gene Steratore comes on, you hammer that no. You hammer that no bet as soon as it comes up. Live betting. Put your mortgage on it. Just like I always say, bet responsibly, right? Like don't bet what you can't lose. Like no, not in this case. No, bet so much
it's
more.
A lock.
It's a lock. Whatever you have in your children's college fund, bet it. Your emergency fund, it doesn't have to be an emergency fund anymore. It can be your slush fund. Let's go into the Wall of Fame and Wall of Shame. Let's start with the Wall of Fame. Mike, on this one, who do you put on your Wall of Fame in this win?
I feel like it has to be somebody from the defense.
Taron Johnson? Taron the Robber Baron? Do you like that better? Taron instead of Taron the Taint Johnson, Taron the Robber Baron? You like Taron the Perineum, like that was your thing. It's a good one.
But Taron of Perineum sound.
Well, it was just because of the taint, but Taron, I like the Robber Baron stealing the game. I like that. Robber Baron.
Benford defended. You remember on that long pass, 4th and 10? It was like 4th and 10, I think. And Tayler had the perfect pass to Slayton on the sideline, and Benford was like right there. Didn't get his head around, but had his hands up. And like, oh wow, that so much happened after that, but that to me was like the play of the game up to that point. Just Diggs certainly stepped up. I guess Johnson. Yeah, I'm just thinking back through. I haven't thought about it till now, but Bass shit the bed. Usually it's such a bright spot.
He's usually bassomatic, and he was assomatic tonight.
To hold any NFL team to 9 points, like injuries galore, it seems every week, and I guess Taron Johnson.
Dude, why didn't Tyrod? I like that Slayton play you brought up. I'm glad you brought it up because that was a great play by Benford, like you said. Their best cornerback right now with Dane Jackson out and Tre'Davious White out. The whole time, I'm just like, why did you pass to the guy that Benford is covering? Why didn't you pass to the guy that Elam was covering? Like classic Tyrod Taylor. If that was Trevor Lawrence, he would have just dropped a dime to whoever Elam was covering, and he would have come down with it. Like that's the difference, I guess, between Trevor Lawrence and it was a great pass by Tyrod Taylor, but he just picked the wrong cornerback to pick on. So yeah, I like that one, Taron Johnson. I should have told that one to Swami. Taron the Robber Baron. What do you think? Oh, I don't know. You got a little Rockefeller into that. I like it. John, what about you? Who's on your wall of fame? Taron the Robber Baron or someone else? I just have to keep saying it.
Yeah, this is a tough one for sure. And I agree with Mike's got to be someone on the defense, and I'd probably go with Taron Johnson on it. I think he led the team in tackles. Played a pretty good game. There you go.
I like how Mike's nodding his head. He's like, good one, because he agreed with like, oh, good point. John didn't really add any other specific points to it, but John's like, Mike's like,
I'm validating.
Well, Mike,
I appreciate that very much. I was not sure.
If there's anything Mike enjoys, it's a good validation in anything that
I love it.
He says or does. Who doesn't love a good validation? I love that you validated the fact that it said that you love a good validation. So that's a lot of validating going on around here. It's one big circling the wagons jerk over here. Let's go. It's a late one.
I was just going to say, too, validation is my kink.
It's my kink. You guys can't even tell from where we're looking at each other, but I am... I am fully aroused. This is like late night circling the wagons. So I'm going to give it to not someone specifically, although I like the Taron Johnson one. I'm going to give it to the end of the half defense on both the first half and the second half. Because the first half, I mean, even though Tyrod chose the wrong play call, Saquon Barkley could have run that ball in if they weren't prepared for it. What a great stop by the Bills defense in that way. I mean, that's all taken back by the fact that Elam that had the pass interference in the end zone to cause that like first and goal or something like that? I can't remember. It was bad though, but bailed out.
That's a good point because the defense was probably expecting pass there and they stopped Barkley. Which is
right.
Impressive.
So yeah, Tyrod threw a curveball at him that he wasn't supposed to do, not on purpose, not because it was like he's playing 4D chess. He made the wrong call, and yeah, Bill's defense was not suspecting that. And then obviously the end of the game, them bailing out, the offense for not being able to end it. And what stinks about that incomplete pass is they don't have to use a timeout, so it's like, gave them one more play. So just the end of half defense. I mean, great. I mean, if you think about it, we should be giving not only props to the players, but Sean McDermott. I mean, he's been an amazing defensive coordinator for this team. Like minus a few games where, I mean, at what game were you like the defense just let the Bills down completely? Like if anything, we're talking offense, right? So let's go. Sorry, go ahead, John.
No, this is a perfect lead into the next segment.
So let's go into Wall of Shame. So John, you have to start off the Wall of Shame now.
Sean McDermott, not because of the defense. Defense is great. I think it's just team obviously wasn't prepared today or last week. And on top of that, in this particular game, there were a lot of questionable decisions where, like, for example, the punt on fourth and 10 on their own or on the opposing 38 or something like that.
Yeah.
And they punted it to 10. So it's a 28-yard difference, right? Like stuff like that.
Well, it's a damn good thing they didn't give Bass a shot at it because he probably would have.
Well, that's the thing. And then it was 4th and 7 on that. And I was like, go for it again, right? So part of those plays is McDermott should have worked with Dorsey and been like, hey, we're in no man's land. Get us closer, like at least call a play that gets us yards, right? So that we can have a better shot at a 4th down on those types of plays. And then, of course, at the end of the game, where it's Bass is a 53-yarder, you guys know I love going for it or kicking, not punting, right? That would have been the time I would have punted. And, of course, they didn't and missed the field goal. So, like, all these things combined. And then, like, at the Bills' third drive of the second half was the one where
How are you always right, John? That's what I don't understand. Every single time.
Well, I texted you guys before all these plays happened, so there is a record of it. So just look at the timestamps compared to when the play happened. There you go. And then also...
I mute all that. Sorry.
At the end of the game, when the Bills were forcing the Giants to use their timeouts, when they weren't even in field goal range yet, and like they were forced to throw it to Knox and maybe he drops it. But like I wouldn't have called 2 runs up the middle. The Giants are expecting it, right? So like I would have worked with Dorsey in that to like, hey, we got to do something here. We can't just keep doing what they're going to expect. So all those things combined, I'm blaming McDermott. A lot of people are going to say Dorsey, but I think he made great adjustments at halftime. And those first 2 drives that they came out, and they only had 3 drives, 3 drives in the second half. So those first 2 drives are great. They were nice long drives. They both ended up in touchdowns. There was no issues I had with any of those play calls in the second half otherwise.
So you had no issues if the play resulted in a touchdown.
Would you?
Would I?
What are you getting at? If you're talking about the punts and the field goals and stuff, you know, I'm texting you guys in game, like go for it, or you should have done this, or you should have done that. I'd punt it this time, and like they always did the opposite, and it always didn't work out.
That's true. John is the best hindsight 2020 coordinator that there is.
But it was in hindsight. I was calling it real time.
You were. You were. It ended up being right a few of the times, but
it was right today.
It was right today.
Today it was right, and I blame McDermott for that and not having his team ready.
You're a good 4th down coordinator. You're always like, except usually you're just like, go for it. No matter what. It's like.
Now, last week, I said that he didn't have the team prepared last week either. Last week, I would have had Dorsey as on the wall shame ahead of McDermott. But this week, the defense played great, which makes it tough. But I think that Dorsey made the second half adjustments, but like the in-game like decisions and stuff, I wasn't sure I agreed with today.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I did not think you were going to say Sean McDermott. I like that one. It's a little contrarian. Mike, what about you? Who's on your wall of shame?
I disagree with the premise of like, if it's, I'm not sure which exact situation you're talking about, but say it's 4th and 3rd and 10. You're saying, we should just get 5 yards and then kick the field goal. But you think like Bass.
No. You should
automatic all year. So you go for the first down, and if you miss it, then okay, we got to kick the 52-yarder.
But he didn't kick a 55-yarder. They punted it on that first time, which you already automatically knew there was something up with either Bass or the weather or something, because the second time he missed it, and obviously the last time he missed it too. So they should have called a higher percentage play on 3rd down rather than throwing another incomplete pass to wherever, and like so that they could have at least gotten closer or gotten the first down, either or, compared to just going for all of it at once.
So you would have liked to see like a 5-yard play instead of going for the first down on that 3rd down play. You're at the 38-yard line, get another 5 yards, maybe make it a 50-yard field goal.
Throw a 6 or 7-yard pass. Maybe the receiver gets the first down. If he doesn't, then it's a manageable 4th down.
So you can decide at that point, do I still want to get a manageable 4th down?
Or you could get field goal at that point. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why are you punting for net 28? Like, it makes no sense to me.
Sometimes I wonder, though, is that Allen or Dorsey? Because I'm sure Dorsey has some short passes called. We just don't see them necessarily. We just see wherever Josh throws the ball, right?
But McDermott's the head coach. He's got to he's got to work in concert with all these guys, right? Like the offense coordinator and in turn Allen. Like they got to have a plan, right?
Mm-hmm.
In these situations.
I think you're selling them short to say that they don't. I think it, like the analytics,
They do.
you have
It's
to look
just
at each
bad.
specific play, but it's like the NBA where it's like, oh, if you're down by 2 and you go for 3 with a 30% chance, or do you go for 2 with a 50% chance? Like you go for the 3, even with a less percentage, because you make the 2, right? It's 50%, but then you got to win in overtime, and that's another 50%, and then it's only 25. When you multiply out the percentage, it's like if it's 3rd and 10 and they throw a 4-yard pass,
You're livid.
not happy.
Mike flies into a
Given
rage.
how awesome.
It's not exactly the same as how you're stating it though. 'Cause
Basically the same.
we're all the drought years, right? Like 3rd and 25, let's run a draw up the middle. Like, yeah, I get that, but this is completely different. I think they were overthinking themselves. Like they had a plan. I'm not saying they didn't have a plan. They had a plan. It was just bad. Like they're playing against Daboll. Like, oh, let's try to outthink Daboll and do this and this and this, and they just weren't doing what worked best for them.
Yeah, I kind of see it both ways. I see it. Mike, is that who you were going to give it? Were you going to give it to Dorsey for Wall of Shame? I'll tell you mine if you want to take a second.
I would say the Ed Oliver headbutt is something that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, that was
just like it would have been 3rd and 14 instead it was 1st and goal. I mean, it's going all the way back to the first quarter, but that was a big play.
Yeah, luckily it didn't end up being a touchdown, but it could have easily been. I'm going to give it to Tyler Bass on this one, which normally we don't because he's been so great this season in general. It was a bad game for him. He missed 2 field goals today. 2 field goals that easily would have put the game out of reach. And, it wasn't just his fault. The game is not on him whatsoever, but he just didn't have a good game. And normally we're able to rely on him to have a good game. So just one of those games. We all have them. I'm probably going to have one at work tomorrow.
Did you then,
I'm counting on it. No.
Dude, it's Monday. You got to ease in.
Yeah. Nobody eases in on Monday. They're all like, shit, I didn't do anything on Friday. I got to really make up for it now.
It's already Monday, so we should be easing in.
When I had paid family leave when we had our second, I always took Mondays off because I had what I could take, like, I think I took 6 weeks or 12 weeks of Mondays or something like that. And I was choosing, because I was going to take 1 day a week to like ease back into going to work full time. And I was like, well, I could either take Mondays or Fridays off, right? And Fridays off, like everyone's happy on Friday. Everyone's in a good mood. You dress in jeans on Friday sometimes. Like people sometimes don't even work the full day on Friday, right? Like that's a great time to work. Like nobody usually has like deadlines on Friday or whatever. But Monday, everyone's in a bad mood. They feel pressured or anxious from stuff that they didn't get finished the week before. I mean,
because they didn't do anything on Friday.
They didn't do anything on Friday. I know, and that's when I wanted to work because I wanted to work with the people that didn't do work on Fridays. It's the best. Yeah. John's like, I know exactly the people you're talking about.
Listen, bare minimum Monday is not about doing less. It's not about slacking off. It's about self-care. You're actually looking out for your employer.
You're doing your employer a favor by bare minimum Monday.
Ensuring your longevity.
I saw a funny tweet earlier this week. It was just like, I wish you could call in healthy to work. Be like, I'm feeling great. I just don't want to waste a work day on this. Yeah. So that was Wall of Fame and Wall of Shame. You guys want?
Did you notice like that? It seemed like the nameplates were like peeling off. Like I've never seen anything. I've never seen a 1, and then tonight I saw like 2 or 3. It's like, did the NFL cheap out on the players' names on the back of the jerseys?
Oh, I didn't notice that. The numbers coming off the jerseys, like they've just been pulled off. They were. Yeah.
Like the nameplates.
And, the nameplate specifically. No, I didn't notice that.
Were they just the Bills ones?
One of each?
Interesting. Well, there was a lot of shenanigans going on in the offensive and defensive lines, so that might have been part of it. some liberties.
Taking
liberties. Someone was taking some liberties under the pile. Led all the way up to the back of their jersey, maybe. Well, you guys want some hot takes? Who wants some hot takes?
Sure. I got hot takes.
Yeah, John, give us a hot take. Let's start us off with a hot take.
You don't want to hear my hot take. So, well,
Yes.
what's when we go to the Twitters?
Okay, let's
Or
go to
the X. The X. I'm
X.
sorry, the X.
Let's go to X for some posts. We're not going to Twitter for some tweets. We're going to X for some posts. As for some hot takes, Kelly Mariakis writes, "A win is a win. Time to fix some shit and move on." Yeah, let's see if we can fix it. Eric Helwig writes, "Watching 4 different guys run on and off the field every single play for the first quarter is maddening. You don't need to get everyone involved. Besides Diggs and Cook, they're all mediocre anyway. Play with some tempo and let guys stay on the damn field and get into a rhythm." Wow, that's an interesting. I did not notice that specifically, but that's an interesting take. I think there's definitely something to be said for guys staying on the field and not just switching off every few plays or whatever like that. I feel like they definitely. I remember that being the case with like Devin Singletary. Like if you gave him a few carries and then you took him out for Zach Moss, like neither of them really got going. But if you gave Devin Singletary like 3 or 4 drives in a row, like he started to hit his stride. Of course, I'm talking about a player that's not on the team anymore. Buffalo Dill writes, "My flaming hot take: it's okay not to be playing your best ball in October. We're figuring out how to best use the players we have left. Be patient." Ooh, hot take. Buffalo Dill's hot take is just relax, guys. Relax. Sounds like Mike's burner. Big R says, "This doesn't look like a championship caliber team. This isn't a hot take, but my hot take is I think they can work themselves into one. A lot of season left and time to work out the kinks on offense." If you watch, the Eagles lose today, like Mike mentioned, or you watch the Chiefs almost lose to the Jets just a few weeks ago, if it wasn't for a terrible, call against Sauce Gardner. Well, it wasn't a terrible call, but a call that they probably don't normally call. And the Chiefs lose to the Jets. You're just like, what's wrong with the Chiefs, right? Like the Bills aren't going to be putting up 40
just
points
this
every
week,
game.
The Chiefs only scored 19 on the Broncos.
And the Broncos are terrible. The Dolphins put up 70, right?
And that was with Taylor Swift in attendance. She's worth 10.
Worth 10
It seems like.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the NFL, right?
Yeah, right. The NFL could not be loving this any more than they are. They're like, we're going to get the Swifty crew in watching games, a crew that probably doesn't necessarily watch games, NFL games as religiously as the other crew. So they got to be loving this. All right, EJ Miller, just say no to turf from Saxa Dave. "This team is genuinely trying to kill me." Dude, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch this team into like my 60s and 70s, depending on how my blood pressure is. I like that. I agree with Dave on that one. Like, I'm just like, if I'm on the edge or I've already had a heart attack at one point, I can't watch Bills games. You're just going to have to tell me what happened after. And I think I might risk it for like the Super Bowl. If the Bills make it to the Super Bowl, I'll just be like, you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it. Of course, if they lose and I die, it's like the worst way to die. But EJ Miller, right? Letdown game in London. They felt like they could sleepwalk through this one and get the win. Daboll had the Giants ready and motivated to play. Bills didn't have their heart in it. I see another dominating performance next week. That's a good point. Mike, you've been to London once. I remember we talked about this like a little bit last week. But like the flight over there is tough because, it's like 6 or 7 hours. But like it takes like a day or so to like acclimate. I remember coming back from London and like it took me like 2 full days to get over coming back that it did getting there. I felt like I remember driving somewhere like the day after we arrived and just being like, oh my God, maybe I shouldn't be driving now. Like I had not had a drink, right? Like I'm just like, I just feel I don't, my head's just like, it was like a green light and I'm just like, what's going on? Like, it's just mentally, I was just out of it. I just wasn't ready. So maybe that's what the Bills are going through this week. It's coming back. Got to find a way out of Knox's. This is Kevin Kaiser. Got to find a way out of Knox's contract. Also, are we allergic to the QB sneak at the 1 yard line? That's just what they'll be expecting us to do. Jacob Schoberl wrote, "At least we won a 1-possession game. Defense played pretty darn well. Can't really complain. I wonder and worry what happened to Bass tonight, though." Yeah. Karen writes, "I will be sending my Bills high school blood pressure meds. I will be sending the Bills my high blood pressure meds and therapy bills and fire Dorsey into the sun." Matthew David wrote, "Fire Dorsey." Phil Masterson, "We should never shotgun again. Okay, that's not realistic, but our base should be Josh under center. That's a good point. If you guys notice this, I know it's been brought up on social media. Josh under center plays so much better than Josh in shotgun, and it just keeps becoming true week after week. You guys pay attention to it. Mike, John, everyone listening, just start noticing that and see what happens. Defense is still good enough to win ball games. 3, we need to call some Josh designed runs. I'm happy he's not running 20 plus times a game, but his legs are still a weapon. It's a good one. Nashville writes, Dorsey sucks and he will tank our season. Chris Braun writes, the Bills are not as good as they think they are. Got lots of hot takes tonight. Cooper HS 2003 Flag Pies. Our offense is offensive to the eyes of everyone watching. Well done, Cooper. Colby Pleasance writes, the slow starts in games will ultimately break the Bills at the season's end. We'll see. We'll see if this continues. It did last season. Bills backers of KC writes, I'll take non-calls over bad call. Or I'll take non-call wins over bad call wins any day. I like that one. That was a good one. That's true. Justin Goddard writes, he says the gif of Obi-Wan. I'm getting too old for this sort of thing. Justin's younger than all of us. It's like, I'm getting too old for this shit. Carlin Sullivan writes, this all unfolded the way it did because Daboll knows Josh and Dorsey better than really anyone. The offense will be fine, and everyone really needs to stop freaking out. Oh, that's a good one. That's Mike. You got to agree with that one. That sounds like basically what you've been trying to say the entire podcast.
Love it.
Validation, Mike. You love a good validation. AJ Tharp writes, oh, this is a hot take. Bench Von Miller. He's either running super wide attacks way past a quarterback that has zero chance of a sack or jogging into a pass rush attempt. I'd much rather have Groot, Floyd, AJ, and Shaq out there until he's really ready to go. I love that as a hot take. I'm not sure I 100% agree with it, but there were a lot of times where I noticed Von just freaking shooting right past. It was just like, Von, bro, where are you going? Tyrod's not going back that far. He's like at the 40-yard line, ends up in the end zone. Like what? Dude, AJ Epinesa had that one really huge sack. Yes, put AJ in there. You know, AJ, Groot, and Floyd. Absolutely. I don't know about Shaq Lawson, unless it's a rundown, but Shaq had some good plays too. His pitch count should be like 10 plays a game until the playoffs. It should be his pitch count. Just do one more play each week per game. A lot of Fire Dorseys out there. Fire Dorsey. David B. Bell wrote, I thought it was a good win. This was a great coaching chess match against a desperate team. They played physical and wouldn't back down. You have to be able to win in different ways. The run game sparked the offense. I like that one a lot. Ryan Mays writes, reevaluate how you prepare. What's happened these past two games that caused you to be starting slow and then completely out of sync for most of the game offensively. Absolutely. And if you know Sean McDermott, he's looking into that. I like that one a lot. Some good hot takes. I'm starting to like this hot take segment better than the Wall of Fame, Wall of Shame, because I feel like there's a lot of redundancy when we do Wall of Fame, Wall of Shame. This is kind of like, gives people a chance to be a little bit more creative. James Judge writes, we got the Pats and Broncos where there's a chance to clean all this up before the Bengals game. It's a long season. A win is a win. Bobby writes, they need to stop telling J17 he can't run anymore. It messes with all of his decision making, it seems like. Yeah, that's a really good take. I didn't think about that. So appreciate all you guys.
Should he have to run all the time?
No, but I think what James is trying to say is that like the coaching staff has tried to beat him into it so much that he shouldn't be, that he's like has to second guess it instead of like just running and sliding. And that's my preferred thing. Run and slide. Do that. Run all you want, just slide.
Yeah, but I mean, it doesn't seem like he's second. Does it seem like he's second guessing though? Like,
or maybe he's just not going to do it. Maybe it's not second guessing so much as it's just he's like, I'm just not going to, unless I absolutely have to. So,
which is probably good, right? Like he's getting older.
It's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing. He does have to eventually prepare for a career like that, right? Where he's going to.
I mean, doesn't he? I mean, he's leading the team in rushing touchdowns, isn't he? Still,
he might be. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Melcat Do writes, I might have to step away from watching the season for my health. A lot of people talking about their health in this one and how the Bills are gonna. Wouldn't that be? Would that be interesting? Like, have you seen those obituaries where like people talk about like their team, like, oh, I want the Browns to lower my casket into the ground so they can let me down one last time, like that sort of thing. It'd be like, Nate, passed away this past weekend. Like my obituary would be like, yeah, he was watching the Bills game. He was watching the Bills game, and he just couldn't handle the fact that the Bills were losing for most of the Giants, who had never led at any point in any game this season up until they played the Bills, and the Bills couldn't score until the third quarter. Like that's what did him in. So some people, it's like, oh, their spouse died, a day before them, and then they went right after. Isn't that sweet? They're going to be like, Nate just passed away because his team was too stressful. Lots of people wanting to fire Dorsey. Mike, John, real quick before we end this one, fire Dorsey. What do you think the poll is?
No way, I love him.
Love him? 66% of people out of 1,100 votes, 66% of people said fire Dorsey. So 2/3 of the.
It would have been the same to fire Daboll.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, when did you start that poll? Was it like at the end of the first half, after the last 6 quarters before that were not the greatest?
Yep. Yeah, when it was the worst. When my timeline was all like fire Dorsey, fire Dorsey, fire Dorsey, fire Dorsey. Dorsey's killing us. Why is Dorsey doing such stupid things? Fire Dorsey, fire Dorsey. I'm like, I don't know if this is the X algorithm or what.
So there has to, like, okay, so if you're going to fire Dorsey, who's going to be the offensive coordinator? That's the other part of it.
That does seem like a tough decision. Joe Judge?
And you would think a lot of the good ones are in some sort of position right now during the season, right?
Well, the way this season, okay, you're right. From a logical standpoint, I cannot argue with anything you're saying. You're 100% right. But if this continues the rest of this season, where it's kind of like they're struggling but they're winning, like let's say they make the playoffs.
I think they had 6 bad quarters out of Dorsey. Jacksonville in the first half of the Giants game.
In the Jets game. But you don't count the Jets game because...
No, that was Josh Allen's fault, not Dorsey's
fault. Oh, that's right. Good point. I forgot about that. So 6 bad quarters, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So at the end of the season, when it comes time, and there are other coordinators available through firings or promotions or whatever, you say at this point, if it continues on this way, don't get rid of Dorsey, right?
No, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of games left.
But I mean, if it continues on the way that it has been, where like you say, it's only been 6 bad quarters and the Bills have played 6 games. So that's 24 quarters. So 6 out of 24 is a quarter. Only 25% of the games are bad.
And they're 4-2.
They're 4-2. Lost 25% of their games. No, 33% of their games.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah.
Almost half after tonight. But yeah, I'm talking myself into not hating him so much after talking with you guys.
No,
not being so bad on him.
And Mike brings up a great point. Like everybody was the same way about Daboll. Like, oh, I gotta get rid of Daboll. And then when they did, or when somebody else hired him, right, for a promotion, everybody's like, oh no, we lost Daboll. What are we gonna do? And it's like, well, come on, you all were just saying that you wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah,
the mob is fickle, brother.
Yeah, I remember saying that on this podcast. Like, what is he doing? What's Brian Daboll doing? With Dorsey, at least, it's like some things just aren't working. With Daboll, I remember being like, we're playing against like the 31st ranked like run defense or pass defense, right? And so he's like, I'm just going to try to run it down their throats. It's just like, no, you don't have to do that. They're terrible against the pass. Just pass it. Nope, not today. I'm going to run the hell out of it. It's just like, Dabes, you're killing me. Like, it wasn't like they weren't doing well passing the ball and they had to go to the run because it was just like, we're not even going to try passing the ball. We're just going to try running the ball. It's like, ugh.
Yeah. I mean,
grass is always greener.
Yeah. It's like, why aren't you running the ball? And then it's like, 2 plays there. Why aren't you passing the ball? And it's like, once you get into that, it gets a little ridiculous.
You ever do that where you're just like, you're only critical and then you're like, oh, they should pass the ball. And then they run it and they have great success. You're like, I knew they should have run it. Like, that's what you should have been doing. Just running it with James Cook up the middle. Like, whereas if it didn't work, you'd be like, why are you running the ball up the middle? That never works. You got like a 13-yard game. Latavius Murray was crushing it at one point,
Yeah.
Cool. So that pretty much leaves the Wall of Fame, Wall of Shame hot take segment brought to you by the Twin Spires Sportsbook at Del Lago. Is there anything else that you guys want to add to this one before we call it a night? Mike, would you like any more validations of anything that you said?
I think I've had enough for one
John,
night.
how are you feeling on validations? Do you feel like you need to be validated a little bit more? Or are you not a fan?
It doesn't matter to me
Oh, John
if
doesn't.
I'm validated or not.
Nice. Wow. I like that. I'm going to validate that statement. That is a good statement.
No, I don't want.
No, screw you, man. Cool. Well, thank you guys all for listening. Thank you guys for checking. Oh, yeah, we got 2 giveaways to give away from our TeePublic site, which was just on sale. Check out the link in the bio if you want to catch one of our TeePublic shirts. I think we have over 260 now at this point. Bills designs, really cool stuff, really great quality t-shirts. They have athletic shirts now too. So if you want to work out in a Bills shirt by Circling the Wagons podcast, like check that out. So we're going to do 2 winners. And if you're not sure how to become a winner of the weekly TeePublic giveaways, just leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you can't do that, then just screenshot it through whatever podcast platform you use, like Spotify. Some of you have done that. Send a screenshot of Spotify or wherever else, and that works too. So appreciate all you guys that have done that. First winner is Nate DeTanto. I already like the guy. Great name. Tremendous name. And then we have Jonathan Gage as a winner. Jonathan Gage.
That's a good name too. I like it.
Kind of weak.
Good stuff.
Kind of weak. Doesn't really show a whole lot of strength in that name. And he's like a
Sounds like somebody that doesn't need to be validated.
Thank God, because there's no validating a Jonathan. And it's a Jon. It's not a John. So
maybe he doesn't need it because he's never experienced it.
He's like, I wouldn't know what to do with the validation even if I got it. So Nate and John win that one. I'm just going to do another giveaway just to see if we can get a mic in there. Just kidding. I'm only going to do 2 giveaways, but what a dick Psych. I am. Psych. So, all right, cool. Well, thank you guys all for listening. Appreciate you guys checking in with us on the Bills-Giants 14-9 win in Orchard Park. Signing off for John.
Go Bills. One of these years will be the year.
Not
maybe
this year.
Maybe this year. Maybe next year. Who knows?
Who can say? For Mike.
Go Bills. It was fun.
And for me, Nate, go Bills. The Bills are 4-2. And we'll be talking to you guys next week, hopefully after a Bills win. Go Bills.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us in your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod @gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills!
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, Nate.
Well, listen, the whole show is called Circling the Wagons. Say no more. I love it.